Hey, everybody, this is Mike Miller, and welcome to the Strike Up the Band podcast. Today, my guest is another fantastic trombone player. I have Matt Corrigan. Matt is a trombonist with the United States Army Field Band's Jazz Ambassadors. Matt, thank you so much for taking time to be with me today.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Okay. Uh, we had to work a few audio issues out, but now everything's good. So I met Matt really briefly about 5 years ago when his band was playing not too far from me, and they put on a great show. And we've been chatted on Facebook a little bit since then. And so I wanted to check in with Matt and see what's going on. Like I do with everybody, can you just tell us a little bit about your background, how you got started playing jazz?
Sure. Yeah, easy enough. So I started music in around first grade, actually, and I don't come from a musical family at all. Uh, First musician was probably my brother, who took piano lessons 2 years before my parents let me start in first grade. And I have sort of a similar story to everyone probably in the States. After that, took up trombone in fifth grade and then continued through the band's program. And once I got into jazz band in seventh and eighth grade, the director just kind of uh, out of nowhere, he was talking to my parents, student teacher conferences, and he's like, "Yeah, I think if Matt wanted to make a career out of this in the future, he'd probably have a good shot at making it." And that was probably just like a throwaway comment, but my parents told me that when I was that young, and I sort of took that to heart, and I'm like, wow, this is like a real career opportunity. So that I would say was like the start of when I seriously considered jazz trombone as a career. Um, and then continued through high school, uh, auditioned for colleges, got in to a bunch of places, but I chose University of North Texas for my undergraduate degree, and uh, something about just seeing the 1 o'clock perform on YouTube and the legacy of that band. I really wanted to be a part of that, which I eventually did get 1 year with the 1 o'clock my senior year, uh, and that was a lot of fun. Got to record on the Lab 2015. After that, I actually took a gap year in my studies and I gigged around Dallas a bit, doing freelance, like cover bands, big band, wedding gigs, anything, a little bit of teaching. And then after a year of that, uh, I decided to go start my master's at University of Southern California with my then girlfriend, now wife, Belle Sawan Potipra. You'll probably hear about her a little bit later, but she's a classical pianist. So I started my master's, and after 1 year of doing that, um, I auditioned for the Jazz Ambassadors and ended up winning that job. So I just dropped out of USC and said I can get a paycheck right now, so I'm gonna do that. And since then, I've been with the band for almost 6 years now. It's going to be 6 years in September.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So you were exposed to jazz even as early as junior high.
Yeah, yeah, that was
Uh,
probably uh, the earliest I heard it was maybe like seventh grade is when my parents finally got me a private instructor for trombone, and his name is Tony Buccelli, and he's a Detroit uh, trombonist, and he's really into jazz. So he sort of started me on that train, with JJ and Curtis Bowler, Carl Fontana, all of them.
yeah, cool. Like for many of us, I didn't. My high school didn't even have a jazz band, so I didn't have a chance to play anything like that till I got into college. So
Uh-huh. Yeah, I was
uh,
very lucky that my middle school band director was also very into jazz. I think he might have been a jazz major with teaching minor, maybe at Western University or Western Michigan University. So, yeah, you could sort of tell that he really came alive during the jazz band rehearsals as opposed to the concert band ones.
Okay. Did you start learning to improvise that young?
Uh, if you could call it that. The typical young musician thing, you just go up and down the blues scale and find notes that you like on certain chords. But yes, I was doing some improvisation back then.
Okay. Yeah. For some of us, that's all we've ever learned. So, okay. Yeah. So, obviously North Texas has the reputation as being really the top, college big band in the country.
Mhm.
Tell us, spend some time. Tell us about getting into North Texas and what that experience was like.
Sure. I've heard people call that school a factory, and I would 100% agree with that. In my freshman year, we had a jazz trombone fundamentals class. It was taught by Steve Wiest, excellent teacher, incredible player. And there were maybe, I think it was either 20 or 22 freshman jazz trombone students. So like you take an idea of like you might not even have a jazz trombone freshman at some colleges for some years, but we had 20 that year. Not all of them ended up graduating, but in terms of just like how competitive it is and uh, the stories with you've got all these different lab bands, it goes all the way down to the 9 o'clock lab band. It really is what people say like competitive and a little bit cutthroat. But I do think it is a good UNT serves as a good microcosm for the actual working world of a musician. Like you really are like, well, if that guy's better than you, he's going to get the call for the gig, if he's available. So uh, definitely a good jump start to my career. It was like when I got to UNT, that was when I really woke up like, whoa, okay, I'm really going to have to get in the shed and buckle down, practice if I want to make a career out of this. Because, of course, everyone's like, you started in high school and you're like first trombone and you're like, oh, I'm the best here. Like, obviously, I'm going to make it. But not so once you get to college.
Yeah. So if you had 20 freshmen, what was the total size of the studio? Like 60 or 70 people, or did four of them drop out before we got to be seniors?
Uh, so the trombone studio had, what do they call them? Departmentals every Wednesday. And I think it was around, hard to say because not everyone would go every week, but it had to be around 80 to 100
Wow.
students. And that's just trombone players. Sorry, what was the other part of that question?
Uh, no, you answered it. I mean, was that all jazz people, or does that include
No,
classical?
that was all the trombone players. Yeah, a cool part about UNT is even if you're a jazz major, for the 2 years, freshman and sophomore year, the classical studio also has you because they want to make sure that you have good fundamentals. So you're taking classical trombone lessons as well, and you have to pass a classical jury to get out of that.
And who was your main teacher then?
So freshman year, it was actually a teaching assistant named Carl Lundgren, and I believe he's based in Colonial Williamsburg, Virginia, right now. But he previously lived in Baltimore, and he's also was a part of the. I don't know if you heard the trombone quartet Maniacal Four.
Yeah, I've seen some of the videos.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's the tall guy with the blue eyes and kind of mohawk like haircut. But
Okay.
so he taught me freshman year, and then sophomore year it was Tony Baker for my second year of classical, and then I was taking jazz lessons third year, and that was with Tony again. And then for my fourth year, I actually studied with a jazz guy named Chris Sider, who they had as a adjunct faculty that year, and he's also a UNT alum, Texas-based jazz trombone player.
Yeah, I've had a chance to hear Tony Baker a couple of times at ITF festivals. most recently down in Georgia a couple years ago. Holy cow, that guy is he's smoking. He's
Yeah.
and he's I guess he's just a fantastic classical player too.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I remember I saw him at the ITF in Indiana, and he played one lick, and I just like sat up and went, "Whoa!" I didn't know that could be done on a trombone.
Yeah, he's
so,
incredible. He
so
also had, uh, probably not surprisingly, some of the best ears I've probably ever uh, heard because which is good for a teacher. He has perfect pitch, down to like he'll tell you like how many cents flat you are sharp. So it can be brutal in lessons where his says like, "Oh, you played a F sharp over that chord, and that really does not fit." And then it's like, "Oh, that was just like 1/16 note in a line." It's got really good ears. Great teacher.
okay, this is probably a dumb question. Does the 1 o'clock band actually practice at 1 o'clock? Is that why they're called the one
They
o'clock band?
first at 1 o'clock p.m. And it's really
Okay,
nice once you get into that band, you just go to your 1 o'clock rehearsal, and then you're probably done for the day if you had classes in the morning. I started in the 6 o'clock my first semester, so I'd go about my day, and then you have this downtime, then you got to go eat dinner, and then you're full of dinner, and you're trying to play at the 6 o'clock rehearsal. So it's nice when you sort of make it into the higher up bands.
so does the 9 o'clock band rehearse at 9 o'clock?
At some point it doubles up so that they're
Okay,
not really rehearsing that late. Yeah.
so when you're at the school, auditions for the bands like once a year, or do they do the
Uh,
selection in the fall
Twice a year.
or
Yeah,
twice?
per
Okay.
semester.
Do you guys rehearse every day or how often?
Uh, yep, it's Monday to Friday.
Okay,
But I do have to give a caveat. I graduated in 2015, so it's been a while.
sure,
They
sure.
might have changed some stuff.
And that band does a lot of concerts as well too, right? They don't
They
just
do.
sit in the studio and practice.
Usually the one
And
o'clock will go on a pretty cool tour somewhere, or not a tour, but like a one-off. They'll fly somewhere for a week. My year we went to Oklahoma, I believe. I guess they didn't have it in the budget to go somewhere cool, but I think they went Australia the next year, so that would have been sick if I got that. But
okay, yeah. So we just insulted all my listeners in Oklahoma, all two of them. So
well, we're in Texas. We just hopped on a bus and went over there. It wasn't
okay,
anything special.
yeah, I understand. It was funny when I was in college at Furman. We'd go on band tours, and we go to exciting places like Georgia and Alabama. But now the Furman band goes to like Ireland and Midwest Clinic and stuff like that. So I feel like they've moved up in the world a little bit since I left there.
Mhm.
So tell us about your audition and the process of getting into the field band.
Sure. So it wasn't my first military audition that I won. Uh, the first audition I did was actually for the blues, and it was maybe 6 months before. Uh, it was like I was just starting out at USC, so it was in my fall semester, and my teacher then was Andy Martin. So the
Pretty
about
good.
as good of a coach you can get for an audition like that. Um, and I actually made runner up for that blues audition. It was for the spot that Luke Brimhall ended up winning. And the funny thing was, Luke Brimhall was in the Ambassadors at the time, and they were on tour. So I was actually uh, in competition with a virtual Luke Brimhall. So everyone else went home, and I'm like, oh, I must have won the job if like I'm the last guy here. And it's like, oh, you came close, but we're gonna go with this guy who we had. They also auditioned him like a month before they went on tour. So that was a little bit disappointing, but also reassuring to know that I was at the level where I could win a job like that. And I ended up winning the opening that Luke left,
Okay.
the Ambassadors. So that worked out.
Okay.
Do you want me to talk a little bit more about
Yeah.
what
What was the process? I
like?
mean, I know I know a little bit about military band auditions, but not a huge amount.
Mhm. So it might vary depending on which one you audition for in terms of the requirements and the process, uh, and how grueling the actual audition day will be. But most of them, you'll send in a tape. I say a tape, but files, MP3s to an email, uh, and probably resumes too. And that's just to see if they want you to come to the live one. And then at the live one, and they should, I think usually they pay for your flight and your room and board, but that might have changed. So that's nice. It is a bit of a time commitment though to prep all this stuff, and you don't even know if you're going to win the job. Uh, so you stay at the hotel nearby the base, and then they take care of transportation. They get a van to pick everyone up and go. And the auditions will probably have multiple rounds. Like I think both auditions I did had 3 rounds, and they just eliminate people as you go each round. So you kind of uh, you want to pace yourself, but not in a way that you'll get cut on the first or second round. You know, because by the time you get to the third round, if everyone else is out of gas and you still have some chops left, then you're probably going to win. Uh, but for the blues audition, I think there were maybe 9 people there to start, and then they cut like 6 people after the first round. So it's pretty brutal. You know, you work up all this time and you practicing the charts really hard, and then they give you like some sight reading or something, and if you bomb it, you might just get cut right there. So you never really know what to expect on these. But I think doing a lot of them definitely helps. Just not only, even if you don't win, it's a good experience. Gets you motivated to practice stuff, and then when it's actually crunch time in the audition, it also gives you experience playing under pressure. For the ambassadors audition, I showed up, and this was uh, it was 2017, I think, in the spring. So it might have been it was definitely before COVID, but there were only 3 people who showed up to the audition, and that was a surprise off the bat. I think they they definitely invited more, but we only had 3 that showed up. And then I think right after the first round, they were just like, "Okay, we just want to hear this guy play more," and they pointed to me. So I just played a second round, and I think that was it. They just took me on the spot there. And they were pretty nice about the timeline with things. So I did something called the delayed entry program, where you enlist and then you have a little bit of time to do whatever you have to take care of, and then you go to basic training. So I had signed up for something called the Banff Creative Arts Jazz Camp. It's in Banff, Canada, and it was led by Vijay Iyer, a bunch of modern jazz artists as the mentors there, and they let me do that before I went. And also, I took a trip to Thailand because that's where Belle, my wife, is from. And that was before we were married. So I got to go to Thailand and meet her parents, experience all the culture there. And then, boom, right when I get back, shipped to basic uh, at Fort Jackson. Yeah,
Oh, near
North
me,
Carolina,
South Carolina.
South Carolina. Okay, I get those two mixed up. But that was I think I'm trying to block it out of my memory. That was a fun time.
What time of year did you go through the basic?
Not too bad. It was September. Yeah,
Okay,
got there
yeah,
September 5th.
because Columbia area in the summer is famous for being brutally hot.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, yeah. My wife's dad is buried at the Fort Jackson National Cemetery.
Okay.
He was a army guy.
Hmm.
So, uh, All right. So you survived. How was that? Like 8 weeks?
So it's it's 10 weeks, but with
Okay.
the orientation that we had at the beginning, it would be 11.
The field band is where Fort Meade.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
okay. So
It's an interesting base. It's got all different branches there. It's mostly Army and Air Force, I want to say, just based on my own experiences. But we also house the NSA there, and it's like the hub for military dog training as well. Yeah, interesting base.
okay.
You don't want to do any wrong turns. You're either gonna get angry dogs or NSA.
Okay. Well, now that we've got you into the field band, just tell us a little bit about that band and what you guys do. I know you tour a lot, and I've looked at some of the your website, and I know you got a lot of great players in there. So just
Hmm.
tell us about what it's like being in that band on a regular basis.
It's great. Yeah, just the level of musicianship is really high, uh, which is it's really nice to just come into rehearsals, know everyone's done their homework and gonna knock out of the park. Uh, if if you're into like arranging for big band, I think this is like an ideal scenario because you can just bring in a chart anytime and try it out, record it with really good sight readers. Uh, yeah, I've been with the band for 5.5 years, so I've already gone through one enlistment and I've decided to re-enlist. So obviously, I like it. I would say it's a good job, steady uh, paycheck and all that. Health insurance. I will say the health insurance is better for your family than yourself. Like my wife can go to the John Hopkins, but I have to go to the hospital on base if it's not an emergency. So that's something. I'm a bit of a complainer, so I don't want to like complain about the band, but it is fun getting to go on tour and go to so many different places. We places I've gone with the band. It's probably like the coolest one is Norway, and we were in Scotland. I don't know. Did James did talk a little bit about that, right? Well, he didn't go, did he?
They told me about the concert band tours. I know that they said they do like 3 tours a year. I don't know what the difference is with you guys.
Yeah,
Uh,
they it's like they kind of try to stagger us a little bit so we're not going to the same places, but we do have same sort of setup where it's like the states are divided into four sections and we rotate between those 3 tours: fall, summer, spring. uh as of late, the Jazz Ambassadors tours have been a little shorter than the concert band, which I like. I think once you get to like week 3 of a 40-day tour, you're like ready to either recharge or go home or something. It can be a lot of time in a hotel room or on the road.
when you're not on tour, what's the typical schedule?
Hmm. So we got to be in by 9 and then rehearse usually till 11:30 or 12 p.m. And beyond that, it's just take care of your PT. Uh, I recently just joined the PT staff. Oh, sorry, physical training. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm familiar with PT.
For any viewers who are not familiar with what that means. So you got to take care of that. You got to make sure you stay in shape. We've got weight standards based on how tall you are that you have to follow. Make sure you keep up general appearance, like your haircut, shave when you have to. And if you have any extra duties, you got to take care of those as well. That could be helping out in supply and inventory stuff, or working on social media, a bunch of people on the social media team, any extra duties that you might have. And you'd want to pick those up as a means of saying, like, hey, look at all the stuff I'm doing. Maybe I should get promoted as opposed to my peer. Or that's how promotions are decided based on how much you do, basically.
Yeah, I know everybody starts out as an E6. Are you still an E6 or have you made E7
I
yet?
Yeah, I'm an E6 still. It takes a
Okay.
while. Uh, you do technically start out as an E4 though, and then they'll have you at the unit for a while, make sure it's a good fit, and once you pass the PT test for the first time, then they'll promote you to E6.
The Army PT test is it's a lot different from what it used to be. But when I was in there, it was push up, sit ups, and a run. And now
Hmm.
you guys have to like throw weights over your head and all kinds of stuff, don't you?
Yeah, I got to experience the old one back when I think I got 2 years of that before they shipped it over. But yeah, it's 6 events now. There is some you throw a medicine ball over your head backwards, which is kind of weird, but I guess it tests range of motion and all that.
As far as the field band, the music you guys play, I looked at the YouTube channel. I remember when I saw you guys in concert, it was more of mostly like patriotic World War II kind of stuff.
Yeah, you
What's the mix there as far as old stuff versus new stuff, and say maybe fun stuff versus what people are expecting to hear?
sure. So we've got a couple different shows that we do. So that's like a way of branding our package to the venue, and it's up to the venue to choose which show they want. So the one that you went to, I believe, was the Greatest Generation show, and we were doing all the hits from World War II. Sing Sing Sing, In the Mood, all that stuff, the Glenn Miller classics, and it was also a full scale video production. So it almost felt like a documentary. Is that correct? That's what you went to?
I don't know about the video. I know it was more of a like a World War II kind of show.
Did we have
Uh,
the Pinks and Greens on?
yes.
Okay. Yeah, it was probably that show. But that just makes it so that we have a better way of branding and marketing the show to audiences, and we'll likely get a better turnout that way. I would say I very much prefer when they just let us do what we call our show one, show two, and show three. And that's a set list that our NCOIC, the person in charge of the group, puts together. So he puts that together, and it'll just be, mostly stuff that we would want to play. And then on the beginning, we have the anthem and the Army song intro, and then at the end we do the Armed Forces medley to honor veterans.
Sure.
But we get to play fun charts in between also.
Okay. Just what's funny, I'm sitting here looking at YouTube, and I guess you've probably seen this video of the Sing Sing Sing, and there's some people on here says says, "Oh man, they might be the ambassadors, but they, especially the drummer, play like if I make a mistake, staff sergeant is going to kick my ass."
Yeah, it's definitely that precision military band style. I don't think I'm on that recording, but
No, you're not actually.
okay, yeah, that's a while ago. You want to know some interesting trivia about that? Uh, they are actually miming, I believe, to that. It is so it's like they recorded it, but then they didn't record video when they were doing the professional recording, so they got like a nice video too. Or maybe they didn't want the mics in the shot or something. I don't quite know, but I think they were going for the highest quality of recording and also the highest quality of video. So they did two shoots, like one for audio, one for video.
Okay. So the Army Field Band is faking it on YouTube.
On some of it, I mean, you could say faking it, but they are
Oh,
playing
I know what you mean.
that, and they're also, yeah,
Yeah, it's like a Super Bowl halftime. It's the real
exactly.
players, but they're actually lip syncing. Um, so hey, there's like four service band, big bands in the DC area. Do you guys is there any rivalry there or competition or anything going on between the bands?
I would say the Jazz Ambassadors are definitely the oddball there, just because we're on the road occasionally, and we're also not in DC. We're maybe Fort Meade is maybe like 45 to an hour and a half away, depending on
Okay.
traffic. Yeah, but I think there's definitely a camaraderie there. among the DC bands. Like if someone can't make a gig, military or personal, they'll call someone else, and sometimes you'll see someone in an Air Force uniform playing with the Army Blues or something. Like I think I saw Ben Ford sit in one time. So they help each other out. I would say it's a friendly. There's not like any battle of the band stuff going on or anything. Maybe they should. That would be
Yeah,
fun.
like within the field band, do you ever get called to play on the concert band for
Occasionally,
anything?
yeah. I think it's about a year ago we had some recordings that called for some extra trombones. So I was tasked with pulled out my Bach 42 and headed over to across the hall and
Okay.
record with them.
Yeah, they played here. What was it, about 2 months ago? I guess now, and I forget the trombonist's name, but boy, he did a spectacular solo. Uh, it was kind of a jazzy concerto. Really, really good. Um, but so do you do much playing, outside of the ambassadors? Do you do some gigging in the area or any other bands you play with?
I try to. I'm in on the roster of a cover band group called Bachelor Boys, uh, which is kind of an interesting corporate entity. They'll book the gig first with the wedding planner, and then they just cobble together musicians like from their roster. So you'll be playing with different people every time, which is kind of fun. Um, and then I'm also with another wedding band called Elon Artists, and I'll play in some jazz stuff. Like I've done the Benny Russell Big Band in Baltimore. Uh, might be playing in another one soon that's doing Sinatra at the Sands. Like they're trying
Oh,
to do a whole album. Yeah,
hmm.
pretty cool. But actually, right now that one I'm not sure if I want to say yes to because it's uh it's like in a week or so, and my wife's due date is July 7th. So
Ah,
I
well,
don't know if I want to risk saying like, oh, she's going into labor. I gotta just bail on you guys for this gig. You're not gonna have a second trombonist.
okay. Well, that's cool that you're going to be a dad. Um,
Yeah, I'm very excited about that.
okay. I imagine he'll be playing something by the time he's 3 or 4 years old, or she.
Hopefully, yeah.
Okay.
Piano is gonna be a must for them.
So you said your wife is a classical pianist.
She is, yeah.
Okay. What does she do? Does she teach or just
Yeah,
what does she?
she just finished up her DMA actually at
Oh,
the University of Maryland. So she's taking it a little bit easy, with the pregnancy and everything right now. But she does teach also. She's got uh, probably around 30 students total. So she has 6 on her own, I think, and then she also teaches at the School of Levine, which is uh, it's a system of schools around the Metro DC area. So she teaches in the DC location for that.
all right. Well, any other projects or anything you want to tell us about before we wrap up?
Uh, I guess I could tell you a little bit about the Jazz Ambassadors tour that's coming up.
Yeah,
I'm
please.
I'm actually not on the tour because of the child, obviously. Um, but they are going up to Canada in Toronto and Ottawa, and they're going to be doing some performances with Ingrid Jensen. I don't know if you're familiar with. Oh, there's the cat.
There's the cat. He's been in several podcasts.
Uh-huh. Do you know Ingrid Jensen, the trumpet player?
I confess that I do not.
Okay, she's an incredible New York-based trumpeter, but they're going to be playing with her, and they're also doing a bunch of charts by our resident arranger of the field band, Daniel Jameson, up there. And then they will be, the horn section is going to be flying to New York for the July 4th parade. So kind of a packed tour for them. They got a lot going on, but I'll be home changing dirty diapers. So I don't know who's got it harder.
Does the military give you parental leave, or do you just have to take regular leave for that?
Yeah, they actually just updated their policy. It's like 12 weeks of parental leave, so that's very
Oh, wow.
generous. Yeah, it used to be around 2 weeks or something, but I think too many people complained, so now they went the other way.
Well, Matt, it's been a lot of fun talking to you. I wish you a lot of luck with the baby and with the band and everything else you have going on. And maybe I don't know when you guys are going to be back down this way again, but maybe I can catch you again in concert soon or at
Sure.
some time.
Remind me again where that is?
I'm in South Carolina.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll let you
Okay.
know. Thanks so much for having me on the podcast. I enjoyed it.